What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Peanut Gallery Podcast, episode 29. It's good to be back. How's it going, man?
It's going well, dude. You're looking mighty dark.
Yeah, that's good, because I was looking mighty red like 2 days ago. So I went on vacation.
We're diversifying our
fried.
Hosts. You just get
Exactly.
tanner. I'll keep getting whiter. We good.
Then we can cover like all grounds of discussion because,
Yep.
you know, different. Yeah, exactly. No, it was good. Vacation was nice. It was super cool. Super short, though. I've been thinking, like, so I went on 2 vacations. One was like
Brag about it.
no, but here's the thing. Here's the kicker.
I've been working the whole time.
Here's the kicker. Shut up. Here's the kicker. You get 2 vacations, each one being like 3 days. Or one was 4 days, one was 2.5. Or you get 1 vacation for like a week. Which one do you do?
One vacation for... Well, it depends. Where am I going? What time of year is it?
Hold on. What?
Like, if it's a weekend getaway to, like...
It's October 12th, and you're going to the beach. It's
I don't take a vacation because I live in Florida. I don't just go on the weekend.
Going to the mountains.
I take a whole week because I go to a cabin, and I hunt bears.
And you might have to be waiting for days for one of them to show up.
Exactly,
So you need
bro.
the extra time.
I'll have a bear trap.
Good. I'm glad we cleared that up.
And I'll
Yeah,
bring
I
some
think I'd
beets.
go for the longer vacation, too.
You got to go for the longer vacation,
Yeah.
dude. Because I feel like, especially with 2 days, it's not even a vacation. You're not talking including travel, though.
Oh. Yes.
It's not 2 days including travel, right?
No.
That's not
2
a
days there.
vacation.
2
That's
full
like-
days there. 2
Okay,
full
so it's
days
like
there.
4 days vacation.
It'd be like a long weekend kind of
plus
thing.
you're leaving Friday and you're coming back
But you
Monday.
but you get 2 full days. You get like Saturday, Sunday, and then you're coming back.
Yeah, that's a
Monday,
dope
kinda.
vacation, dude. But yeah, no, sometimes you will need a further time.
Long vacation.
This is important.
I'm glad we got that. That is important, dude. It goes with what we do.
Here's the thing. People that have German Shepherds get the 2 week vacation because they're idiots. And the people that buy Huskies, they get the 1 week vacation because Huskies are just better in every way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can't think of anything, so we'll just move on. All right, guys, this is the Peanut Gallery Podcast. If you didn't already know, this is the place that we provide our completely unprofessional and insignificant opinions about the most important and significant topics of the day. I'm your host, Jared, and with me, as always, is Seth, and we're going to move right into what was nuts this week. All right, guys, we are back in the What Was Nuts this week, and we're going to kick things off with some duly earned awards that were awarded.
Dude, these prizes mean absolutely nothing.
They do mean absolutely nothing. What we're referring to, of course, is the Sydney Peace Foundation awards a Global Peace Prize every year. And this year, it's the first time they've done it because it's just such an exceptional movement. They've awarded it to a movement instead of a person. And, of course, the movement is the Black Lives Matter movement.
Is this Sydney, Australia?
Yes.
So, Sydney, Australia. Black Lives Matter is American, isn't it? Or is it global now?
It might be moving global with this, but yes.
Because how do they win a global peace prize? I don't think they're bringing peace global. They're not even bringing peace in America, but I'm pretty sure they're not bringing peace globally.
They're bringing justice and social justice and equality and opportunity to the
black
world.
people.
You racist. Anyways, so of course, this is the peaceful movement, and let's not forget the Baltimore riots here, where they demonstrated it. majestically.
Protests, not riots.
Correction.
In similar news, we have LeBron James this past week. His home was recently vandalized. They spray painted offensive words on his, I think his house or his gate or something.
I think it was his house.
One of his houses. Sorry, one of his houses. I would assume.
Poor guy.
And he was just, they interviewed him, whatever, and he was of course saying this is ridiculous. But then he also went on to continue to say that being black in America is still hard, and he still gets discriminated against every day or something. And it was kind of you're LeBron James, are you serious? But at the same time, I understand, I can understand him being upset with what happened with his home, because that's sacred, kind of like your house. But really, I think Jason Whitlock, who we're about to show what he had to say about it, kind of summed up my thought process on it when he was on ESPN.
Hardest thing is being black in America. I was just like, this is crazy. Have you ever tried to be a veteran that lost a leg in America? Have you ever been a poor person accused of a crime and forced to go with a public defender in America? Of any color. It's if you're poor, regardless of color, you are catching hell. I've been poor. Shannon's been poor. We know the difference. We know how good our lives are, and we don't need to pretend like, oh my God, this is so terrible what's happening to us. But we need to be defending the poor and disadvantaged and talking about their issues.
So yeah, maybe not speaking for a whole group is a good idea. Also, maybe kind of looking at the information and the data. And I think Whitlock brought a lot of good points when he was talking about how if you just look at the numbers, it's poor people that have it bad. And it's not tied to race because poor white people, poor black people, poor Hispanic, poor Asians, all kind of have it crappy. And
it's important to distinguish, too, that poor people in America and poor people globally, completely different things.
Yes.
But, it's not going to stop that. It's okay. We have more amazing logic and reasoning here from our next person.
Dude, can she just get out of the news,
Every time I hear her voice, I really just want to,
hold up a sign that said, let's not forget she lost.
Exactly. So here we have Hillary Clinton blaming everyone but herself for why she lost.
Let me just do a comparison for you. So, I set up my campaign, and we have our own data operation. I get the nomination. So I'm now the nominee of the Democratic Party. I inherit nothing from the Democratic Party.
What do you mean nothing?
I mean, it was bankrupt. It was on the verge of insolvency. Its data was mediocre to poor, non-existent, wrong. I had to inject money into it.
This is the DNC.
The DNC to keep it going. Okay.
All right, Hillary, I have a personal message for you. I know why you lost. You sucked as a candidate. You were
And America
awful.
doesn't like you.
And America doesn't like you.
They don't trust you.
They don't.
They don't like
trust
you.
You are a terrible candidate. You did this to yourself. You had twice as much money as Donald Trump did during the campaign, and he still won.
Yes.
So, I mean,
I love how the
this is
DNC has now come out and been like, no, I'm sorry. No, you're not going to blame this on us. It was you.
Yeah, it
It's
was
like
you. You're not a good candidate.
I don't know. Do people really like why is she continuing to say this? Does anyone really think that she had all these
You could tell, in the video, she seemed angry. You know what I mean?
I'd be angry I lost to Donald Trump.
Dude, she seemed angry, salty, almost a little bit unpoised for her. Little unhinged. She seemed pretty angry about
Who cares,
that.
dude?
I just thought it gave me a sense of happiness kind of deep down in my soul.
Joy, I think is what that's
yeah,
called.
Exactly.
Down in your heart. Do you think she's going to run? Because I've been hearing now more stories popping up that she's thinking about running.
I hope so. I think that would be the greatest thing for
her to lose again.
Yeah, she would.
You think she'd lose?
She would. Yeah, dude. There was somebody did a study. There's a 25% chance that she would die in her first term if she ran. Just looking at age-wise, it's a little dark.
There's no way you can.
You look at
that percentage.
You look at Bernie Sanders.
Did not die.
Elizabeth. No, I'm just saying. This is just. Hold on.
Oh, gotcha.
Hear me out
they're
here.
candidates.
This is the DNC, that diverse group. Okay, the Party for Diversity has Joe Biden, who
he would
talked
win.
about running. You have Bernie Sanders. Okay, you have Elizabeth Warren, and you have Hillary Clinton. You have a bunch of old white people running. The average age is probably over 70 for those people. Not
Really?
Probably. It is.
I don't know what they are
So-
aged. Yeah. Makes no sense.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think they're young. They're young and hip, dude.
The young and hip. I mean,
young
she
and
did kill it on the social media, just not enough to actually win. But,
Kill it as in her chances.
Dude, she did the what was that video that was going around for a while that one froze? What was that called?
Oh.
It wasn't the Harlem Shake, right? It was
Wow,
something
dude,
else.
you can't put me on the spot with
What was that?
cool-
You did it
can't
with your
put me on the
Chick-fil-A.
spot with cool things that happen, man.
You did it with your Chick-fil-A. What
The
was
mannequin
that? Anyway.
challenge.
Yes, she
Yeah,
did that with
that
her
is.
people on her plane. I don't know how she'd win. Instead of going to like Wisconsin and stuff,
I
she
mean, I
did
would have
that.
voted for. I vote based on the coolest mannequin challenge. So.
I vote on how little someone moves. You know. No. All right. On to the next story. We have I would say a liberal spokesperson, Bill Maher, but I kind of think the left's kind of ditching him because he's actually bringing, I think, interesting
He's
conversations.
starting to be kind of uncontrolled with some of his comments and especially his stance on Islam.
I don't think uncontrolled at all. I think logical.
Well,
but-
uncontrolled to them, like that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but anyway, so he in a recent HBO interview with
Ben Sass,
Ben
Nebraska
Sass,
Senator. Ben
yeah,
Sass.
he kind of let this slip.
We'd love to have you work in the fields with us.
Work in the field.
That's part of that. That's
Senator. I'm a house. No, it's a joke.
So yeah, as you can probably guess, outrage ensued on Twitter, pretty much everywhere. CNN, everyone kind of picked up that maybe it's not okay for Bill Maher to use the N-word.
Yeah.
Uncensored on HBO. They didn't catch it up when it first ran. And, I mean, I kind of got to agree. I think it's weird that we have certain words that certain skin colors can't say. But at the same time, I don't think that we're in a place in society currently where I would feel comfortable with him saying it or I would feel comfortable saying it. Yeah. Policy-wise or whatever, I'm like, that's dumb. But at the same time, I understand where we are in society. But HBO has put out a statement that they're not firing him yet. They did pull that part of
yet?
They didn't say yet, but they're like, at this time, we're not letting him go or whatever. Which,
Oh, wow.
Little sketchy. And then he apologized, obviously, because that's what you do. You do these fake apologies that mean absolutely nothing. And I don't know why they even do them.
Yes.
But at the same
As we'll
time,
see later in the show.
yeah, right. Yeah, jeez. But at the same time, I'm like, is it a big deal? Like,
Seemed a little bit of a double standard to me.
it's
honestly.
a joke.
Yeah, and
I
honestly,
thought it was a
I think
funny
it should
joke.
be treated just like any other kind of profane word that someone would say in the context. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's pretty disingenuous for if you're somebody who throws that word around all the time, and
be mad
then
when
you
he
criticize
says it.
someone else because they're a different skin color for saying it.
It seems weird, yes.
That's my opinion on it. I really don't think that it's that big of a deal. However, I think he should have been smarter in knowing that he would have gotten backlash for that because, you know.
Yeah. I wonder if he could have, like, said... If you could have said, like, instead of... So, say he said, like, the house N-word. What if he had, like, said, like, the house slave or something, if that would have been as big of a backlash?
I still think he probably would have got hit. He
We
still would've got
probably,
hit.
yeah.
He gets attacked by the left for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well,
I
he's...
think he would have gotten hit.
Probably. But anyway, fake apologies galore.
Yeah, there you go. So this next story we got going on, this just happened about 24 hours of the time this recording. It happened over the weekend. Honestly, I'm getting kind of sick and tired of talking about this. We talked about it on the last show, and it seems to be happening all too often. We're talking about the London terrorist attacks. So basically, if you don't know what happened Saturday night, there were reports happening, I think it was around 10 o'clock, that on the London Bridge there was a van that was driving, mowing down pedestrians, kind of running over people on the sidewalk. Police were called. At that time, 3 men got out of the van with knives, started running into different bars and pubs and stabbing people. The people inside the bars and pubs tried to fight back, throwing beer cans at them and breaking chairs and stuff like that.
I feel like it's weird that they couldn't overpower them. I guess knives, though, can be brutal.
Yeah, knives can be brutal, and especially when it's totally unexpected, man. I mean,
Yeah.
You're just sitting there having
Drinking,
a
having a
conversation
good
with your
time.
buddy. But anyway,
Sucks,
so the
dude.
police were called. Within 8 minutes, the police had come, shot, and killed all 3 terrorists. They have confirmed that it is an act of terrorism. There were different eyewitnesses there who, their statement, they said that these men were saying, quote, "This is for Allah." But yeah, basically, there's 7 people were killed. Horrible. There's
I think it's up to like 20 in critical.
It's up to 20
or
in
14
critical
or
condition.
something.
Yeah, and then 48 others were injured. I know a lot of those injuries were from being run over when they were going over the London Bridge, which is just insane.
Which is
to
the
me.
same tactic they used last time, which is interesting because usually they don't do the same tactic again. At least not in the same place.
I mean, unfortunately, it's starting to gain some traction. There's in New York City, I saw some video of some guy doing a U-turn and just pulling his car right through the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sucks,
anyways,
dude.
I mean, this is horrendous stuff that's going on.
Yeah. I will say I did read a story that was really cool about one police officer that he was a first responder, and I mean I don't know if you guys know, but in the UK their police officers aren't armed with like guns; they carry batons. That's neither here nor there right now. But he was a first responder, and he rushed and started attacking, or not attacking, but trying to arrest or stop the terrorist act with his baton. 3 men he saw with knives. It's pretty brave, pretty awesome. I think he ended up with stab wounds to his head and leg. As far as I read, he was still alive.
Yeah.
That's really cool, I think.
And the police thought initially, and I'm sure some of the people in those bars and pubs thought that they had suicide vests on because they had these kind of fake canisters strapped to their chests.
Yeah, and the guy didn't. He didn't even think about that. He just threw
didn't think about
himself
it. He just ran
to
in.
save the people. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And it just, you can't, I don't know. It sucks. Like, it sucks, dude. And it's in Ramadan. Like, what the heck? This is your holy month.
Dude, this is what happens in the holy month of Islam, though. You see it this month last year during Ramadan, was it over 400 people?
Yeah. They're already up to 150 this month.
Yeah. What is, it's like the third or the fourth? That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It sucks.
So, I mean, honestly, dude, I hate to say it, but this problem is going to keep happening until.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're going to have the Taliban, bro, we have Christian business owners, right? So.
Who are just
the Taliban.
the Taliban, according to Whoopi Goldberg.
How about this? Do what you need to do for your family. Right. Let me do what I need to do for mine, and we'll all be fine.
You can't hide behind religion to restrict other people's rights.
Well,
that is not okay.
That's done all the time. We saw it when people said, "Oh, we can't have gay people adopting, so we're going to stop."
Well, that's wrong too.
You know what?
It's wrong.
Y'all just need look.
I don't know. How is it different from the Taliban?
I just feel that at some point you have to take responsibility for your life. And a lot of people are saying, this is what I need, and you're saying it doesn't matter what you need. I want you to believe how I believe. And I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. With all these rollbacks and all the things that we hear, what's the difference between us and the people we're fighting?
Nothing.
What's the difference?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's to keep women down also. Let's not forget that one of the reasons they do this is to keep women in their place.
So I say, if you're a faith-based company, you should not get any tax breaks. How about that? If you're going to operate like everybody else, you don't get the tax breaks. Stay out of. As a religious group, if you're going to talk politics as a religious group, you don't get a tax break. Sorry. So basically what you're saying is people who work in religious hospitals or schools, even if they're Jewish or they're not believers, you're saying they're not welcome there because unless you believe exactly and do exactly what they say, you're not welcome. That's not what you're supposed to be saying. That's not Christian.
So yeah, once again, just genius Whoopi Goldberg and The View. I don't think it was actually Whoopi that said it first. Then she turned back and then said it. We're not any different from them. It's like you are very disconnected from society if you can sit on your talk show host as women and say we're no different than them, realizing you wouldn't be allowed outside of the house without a headscarf.
You wouldn't be able to do what you do every single day
if you were there.
So
you're just an idiot. I just have no respect for them.
No respect at all. It's gone a long time ago. But this isn't the first time she's done this. She compared President Trump and some of his policies and treatment, of women for not providing free abortions and birth control and stuff like that. Called him the Taliban as well. So this
sounds like she likes the Taliban, dude.
Yeah, she can't stop.
She's basically the Taliban,
Probably be a more fair comparison. I don't know, dude. Yeah. It's insane. It's just more.
Over birth control objections. Like the idea that a Christian store owner doesn't want to provide that for them, like.
It's a private business, man. He can provide whatever they want. If they don't like it,
if you don't like it,
for another company
go work somewhere else.
That will provide that, exactly. And to compare him to the Taliban is totally insane.
And the idea that they're like, well, let me do my life and you do your life, but I'm going to tell you how to run your business, by the way.
Exactly. And if you don't, I'm going to compare you to a terrorist organization that is responsible for thousands of people's deaths.
I would love to find the pivotal point where these wild accusations were allowed to be said. Because I don't think 30 years ago you would walk around and just call someone racist. It actually carried weight. You wouldn't just walk around calling someone the Taliban or whatever was equal to them back then.
It means something. Now there's so much. I think a lot of it had to do with kind of like more people using social media, and you can just throw something out there and not take.
And it kind of dilutes the word and the meaning, and then you start
you don't
doing
have
it
to
in
take
real life.
responsibility for it because you might have a fake name.
Well, no, you take responsibility, then you fake apologize.
Yeah, or you do that. Like, yeah.
Golden.
Nowadays. I don't know. It's insane, man.
Yeah.
But more insanity coming up, of course, because it wouldn't be the Peanut Gallery podcast without just insane lightning news of the day, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to go ahead and move right into the main topic. All right, guys, we are back in the main topic this week and have a little bit of, kind of good news. I think it's good news.
It's the worst news ever.
Yeah, no, we got some good news. I think some good Trump going on this week, in my opinion. So we have, of course, President Trump pulls out of the Paris Climate Accord.
Or agreement, whatever it is.
Whatever the heck you want to call it.
Name.
Yeah. Anyway, so basically, I think it's important first that we kind of define exactly what it is, because a lot of people don't really know what it is, especially if you listen to the mainstream media and stuff. They're saying it's super important, but then they're also saying, wait, it's not really like that binding, so why did you have to pull out anyways? Which one is it? So basically, the Paris Climate Accord is a non-binding agreement that a bunch of countries came together and agreed upon how to lower their CO2 emissions into the world, right?
Yep.
So I think there's a couple things wrong with that. One, it's non-binding, so there's no way to enforce anything. And then two, none of the resolutions were rejected by any of the countries that submitted what they would do. So, for example, if Germany came and said, hey, we're going to reduce emissions by 0.001%, then it would have just been like, oh, great. And there's actually examples of that. Literally, Pakistan just said, yeah, we're going to try to reduce some emissions.
Well, that's where this is weird as to what it was actually doing.
What it was going to do. It'd be like if you and your friends said, hey, we're going to stop smoking cigarettes, and you all agree to it, right? And then 1 year later, none of you stop smoking cigarettes, and then you're just like, okay, cool. Well, we can't enforce anything. Like, no, it doesn't really accomplish anything.
Yeah.
Unless the countries actually hold themselves to the standards.
Yeah.
There's no way to really enforce it. So I think that's interesting. But I think one of the main reasons that Trump pulled out, one, I think, like we talked about, he could have just lowered the regulations. They wouldn't have been passed anyways. His administration wouldn't have enforced the regulations that Obama set previously because, frankly, it's unattainable. A 25% reduction in CO2 emissions would drastically hurt the economy, like we'll talk about later. But he pulls out, and it makes a big statement, really, what I think. I think it's more of a statement than anything. And honestly, I'm completely fine with that. I don't think that big, supersized global governments are the only way to reduce CO2 emissions, that are polluting the planet. I think if you just look at the free market in the United States, over the past few years, CO2 emissions have dropped 3%. And it's not because of government regulations and mandates that were placed on them. It's because the free market evolved and different fossil fuels and stuff like that and cleaner energy became more efficient and more productive, and they started replacing some of these, coal and stuff like that, which reduces your emissions long term. Cars became more efficient, so there's less emissions being produced and, injected into the atmosphere. So I think that's important to note, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was hearing a lot of is the fact that it's non-binding, right? So what's the harm? Basically what a lot of people were saying, I can kind of understand the argument of if we pulled out, we're basically saying we're not on board, because who wouldn't want to agree to lower your emissions, But I think it's important to understand it's not just saying we're going to lower it, because there is a very expensive payment we have to make in order to just say that we're going to lower it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, according to this is kind of President Trump made a speech on it, and this is a little bit of his speech, and he kind of outlined exactly what it would do to the American economy. And he provides the source in here, and he is correct in these statements that he makes.
Compliance with the terms of the Paris Accord and the onerous energy restrictions that is placed on the United States could cost America as much as 2.7 million lost jobs by 2025, according to the National Economic Research Associates. This includes 440,000 fewer manufacturing jobs, not what we need. Believe me, this is not what we need, including automobile jobs, and the further decimation of vital American industries on which countless communities rely. They rely for so much, and we would be giving them so little.
I love when we say the president's makes these statements, we have to preface it with he is correct.
It is accurate. I checked it out. I double checked it. It's right.
What is wrong with the world?
He is right here, and I think it's interesting because a lot of times when you see these leftists or super environmental activists and stuff like that, they'll talk about reducing all these CO2 emissions and doing all these things. Yeah, fine, great, but they never talk about the trade-off and the impact that it will have on the economy, and it's huge. I mean, when you're talking about $7,000 less in the purchasing power of every single American family because their energy costs rise that much, or a $3 trillion opportunity cost in GDP that you would have gained because you're cutting back on these emissions, it has an effect on the American economy. I mean, it has an effect on the biggest economy in the world when you reduce its CO2 emissions by 25%. So I think that's really important to talk about, but that's not the only reason that the United States pulled out of it. The United States was funding a fifth of the entire agreement, and there's something like 182 something countries involved. And I mean, we had to provide billions and billions of dollars to other countries to help them kind of create more green energy and stuff like that.
But we are one of the biggest causes for this. Like, we do produce some of the most CO2 in the world. Besides China, we're the biggest. So I can kind of understand us. It's weird, right? Because I can understand us taking our fair share of the pie, because it wouldn't really make sense for us to be paying as much as some little tiny country in Africa that doesn't produce basically anything.
Why does anybody have to pay it all?
That's the point.
Why can't countries just reduce their own emissions?
Exactly. I mean,
that's what
I'm with you, but I can understand the fact that if we were paying, we should pay a bigger amount, if that makes sense. Although I don't know why we're paying. And I think the reaction to this, which has been freaking crazy, you had Elon Musk peace out from Trump's council because of it. Even though when he was going to the council and everyone's like, why do you even bother? He's like, the only way to affect change is to be close. And now he's like, peace out, I don't want to be close.
Until they do something I don't like.
Yeah, I don't know. That was kind of weird. Maybe he's figured out he really didn't have any say, which is probably true.
Probably true. But
but like, people are freaking out. But like, you see, what was it, California and New York have come forward and said they're going to still uphold the standards that were talked about in the treaty. That's great. We're not paying for it as a country, and our states choose, if they want to uphold those standards that were set forth. Cool. Uphold the standards locally. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm totally fine. Don't create national policy, that affects tons of Americans and their jobs. If states want to uphold those things, then fine. And if you don't like what your state's doing, move to a different one.
We're paying, like you were saying with these countries, for the countries to not have any check that they're actually doing anything because there is no enforcement. It is just, we're going to do this. We need this much.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I don't trust people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of countries are free riding on the agreement. Oren Krass has a good point here. He says, quote, China committed to begin reducing emissions by 2030, roughly when its economic development would have caused this to happen regardless. So as your economy begins to grow and, different fuels and stuff become more efficient, then you start to reduce your emissions. It's like exactly what's happened with the United States. Starts to reduce their emissions. India made no emissions commitment at all, pledging that it would only make progressive progress on efficiency at half the rate it had progressed in recent years. And then Pakistan just, they top everything and submit a single page that offered, quote, they will, quote, reduce its emissions after reaching peak levels to the extent possible. So what does that even mean?
It's so wishy-washy.
What does that even mean?
Yeah. And it's, again, what we always talk about is it's not people try to make this a left or right. So you're left or you love the earth, so you have to agree with the agreement. And if you wanted him to pull out, you're a climate change denier, you hate the earth, whatever. Like, no, why can't we agree that, we probably should be trying to be a little bit cleaner, but maybe not that we should be part of this agreement that is kind of BS. So we pull out, we don't spend all the money, and then we let the states do what they want, and they start lowering themselves. And we've already seen that we have been lowering. Technology has been advancing. It's not like we've been at a standstill or going up.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
Like,
absolutely.
There's
I
a
mean,
middle ground there.
There's absolutely a middle ground. I mean, if your critique was, hey, we need to at least stay in so that it sends a signal to the world that we're still there, but maybe reduce our emissions and pull back on what we were doing. I think the thing is the United States would get negative press either way. I mean, he would absolutely get negative press for saying, hey, 25% reduction in, our CO2 emissions is completely unrealistic and we're not going to pay all this money. Because the critique is like, oh, my gosh, even countries like Pakistan and China and India are in and everything like that. And, of course, they're in. They don't have to do anything, and they're getting paid by the United States to not reduce their emissions. So, no duh, they're agreeing to it.
Yeah.
And to just further prove that this agreement hasn't done anything, if you take a look at Germany over the past 2 years, their CO2 emissions have risen.
No, they agreed to the Paris Agreement.
They agreed to the Paris Agreement, so it would be reduced, yeah. So that's just further proof that it's not happening. But that's not going to stop people from totally losing their minds. I think that the United States' influence in the world is much bigger than a stupid agreement that's non-binding across, these different countries.
The agreement that, wasn't even approved by Congress or anything. So
yeah, exactly. And I think that's another important thing to make. If it's such an important agreement that has to be proved or that has to be, kept and everything like that, why wouldn't President Obama have taken it to the Senate to ratify it so that it would be there permanently so the next president coming in couldn't have just reversed it if it's that important? And there's a reason why. It's because, one, it wouldn't have passed because it's not that important and it doesn't really do anything.
Because it sucks.
It's not that hard at all.
Yeah. So,
I mean, that's not going to stop people from freaking out, though. I think it's so disingenuous, though, for these people to say these things. I was watching Tucker Carlson the other night. I was on vacation. I don't have cable normally, so I actually got to watch what.
On vacation, you get cable.
Exactly, it's great. But anyways, I was watching him interview the mayor of Miami, and he was saying, "Look, I believe that man has an impact on the climate." And I agree with that. I think man has an impact on the climate, but it's to the extent of how much they do and how much of our economy are we going to sacrifice in order to make changes. What's the balance, basically? But anyways, he was asking the mayor of Miami, tell me why it was a bad thing to pull out of this agreement that wouldn't have done anything. There was an MIT report that stated that by 2100, it would have reduced the Earth's temperature by 0.2 degrees Celsius.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of the argument to that is that it's a jumping off point. The
countries are going to do even more.
Or there'll be more agreements and more mandates after this, but it's that's not, you're banking on stuff that's not even in the pipeline.
That hasn't happened yet. And if you take the past 2 years that the agreement has been in effect and project that in the future, Germany has increased it. Okay, the United States has not reduced it, so it's not going to happen. Yeah. Anyways, and so the mayor was just completely unable to answer anything about it. He kept repeating, look, it's a global thing. Everyone's coming together to stop, the world from warming and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, I know, I get that. But what is this agreement doing where the United States is having to pay billions of dollars? How is this helping the globe? And he just did not have an answer at all. And I think that's totally true.
Yeah.
It's completely true. I mean, if you're an activist about the environment and stuff like that, you should be pushing for a permanent resolution, not a non-binding one where countries aren't beholden to anyone but themselves to enforce these policies.
Can't argue with you.
It's the end of the world, but it's the end of the world.
It's the end of the world. Well, it could be the end of the world if we don't get it under control.
It's had people's heads were rolling.
Speaking of heads rolling, my topic for today is a lovely artistic display from a super relevant and ingenious comedian. So yeah, as you can probably imagine,
didn't go over well.
Did not go over well. It was kind of one of those amazing moments where, regardless of party lines, everyone figured out and saw that this was a horrible idea and did absolutely nothing. You had Chelsea Clinton even coming out and saying that this was vile and wrong, and it's never funny to joke about killing a president. You had Anderson Cooper saying, for the record, I am appalled by this photo shoot Kathy Griffin took part in or whatever. And it's like, what were you thinking? And of course, once she realized what she had done, after she had the photo shoot, after she paid the photographer, after she got the publicity. She thought it was, I mean, I should apologize because she couldn't figure out why.
Fake apologies.
Yes.
Hey everybody, it's me, Kathy Griffin. I sincerely apologize. I am just now seeing the reaction of these images. I'm a comic. I crossed the line. I moved the line, then I cross it. I went way too far. The image is too disturbing. I understand how it offends people. It wasn't funny. I get it. I've made a lot of mistakes in my career. I will continue. I asked your forgiveness, taking down the image, going to ask the photographer to take down the image, and I begged for your forgiveness. I went too far. I made a mistake, and I was wrong.
So yeah, so I kind of wanted to just talk about what we thought about this. Besides, more than the fact that just so stupid. Like, was the outrage warranted? Like, so CNN dropped her from at least the Anderson Cooper, Kathy Griffin New Year's Eve program.
Yeah.
I'm hearing reports that she might have been dropped completely from the program. I'm not sure. But then, like, also, like, she had an ad deal or a promotional thing with Squatty Potty that they dropped her completely. And now she's freaking coming out and saying...
A few different venues have canceled her events as well.
Oh, venues have?
Yeah.
Nice. Now she's saying that she's being harassed by old white men, like, because Trump is... She's getting harassed and her life's over and he broke her. And I don't know what world this, like, Kathy Griffin lives in, and she thinks this is anything but her fault.
No, absolutely. I mean, it seems a little strange if you hold up a picture of someone's bloody
decapitated head.
That makes you the victim, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
And there are reports that Barron saw this, Trump's son, and didn't realize it was real. I don't know if I believe that because it's kind of too perfect.
Yeah, but it very well could have happened.
Could
it was
have been
all over the news. He could have watched it, and I can totally understand an 11-year-old freaking out, seeing what looks like their father's head bloodied.
Yeah.
Being held up by the hair.
Right. And so it was great to see everyone get on board like, this is dumb. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is her thought process. Like, what will you like? So I'm all for art and art pushing the boundaries, but it needs to mean something. What was the message? Like,
that's what I'm saying. She's claimed look, I'm a comedian. She said it in her video. I'm the comedian. I push the lines and I cross the lines and blah,
you
blah,
forgot
blah.
to roll your eyes in the middle of it.
Yeah, well, what's the punchline? Like, I get your
What's the
comedian.
joke?
What's the joke? You're holding up a severed head, so
you look like
something
ISIS.
to
This
make
is an
it
instance
funny?
where you literally look like the talent. I'm sorry, you do. You're holding up like proud. Like what? Who? Like that's so barbaric and gross.
Yeah, no, it's insane, and I mean, I think it's. She's obviously just claiming that it's art, and she's pushing the line. I think that that's an obvious thing that she feels like she needs to say to maybe at least get her a little bit of leeway in that area to say, look, I'm a comedian, it's art, I can do whatever I want. But people clearly didn't buy it. It's like, I'm sorry.
Good.
Holding up someone's beheaded head isn't really art.
What's your statement? Like, explain to me what your statement is, and I'll be fine. And people were also saying, like, this is completely uncalled for. You had the people rioting when Obama took office with, like, mannequins of Obama being hung because they wanted him lynched or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think if you asked them, they would probably tell you wanted him to die. And I can kind of more understand that because they actually had a reason. Like, they had a solid reason why they thought he should die. I don't agree with them, but they thought that. Why are you doing this?
Yeah. Do you
like,
think that the president should be dead or
should
do you think
be
it's funny?
decapitated?
Yeah.
Like, you need to stand with your art. Like, what are you saying if you're not saying that? Because that's pretty obvious what you're saying.
And then if you don't stand with your art and you make an apology video, don't come out a couple days later and say this.
I'm not afraid of Donald Trump. He's a bully. I've dealt with older white guys trying to keep me down my whole life, my whole career. I make mistakes. I'm an out there comedian. I'm an in-your-face comedian. But I just wanted to say, you know, if you don't stand up, you get run over. And what's happening to me has never happened, ever, in the history of this great country, which is that a sitting president of the United States and his grown children and the First Lady are personally, I feel, trying to ruin my life forever. Forever. You guys know him. He's never going to stop. This president, of all people, is going to come after me? He picked the wrong redhead.
I love that she had to slip in white men.
Yep.
Yeah, like she just like saw an opportunity. All right, I'll just throw that buzzword in there.
Yeah.
But no, it's absolutely insane. And honestly, I read the response from Melania Trump, And it was I thought it was very eloquent, and it was very well said. I mean, she said something to the lines of, as a mother and as a wife, I find this appalling and disgusting, and it makes you question the mental health of someone who would do this. And that was it.
Yep.
And that is a totally valid reason.
Even
statement
Trump
to
Street
say.
was very excited. Like, Trump's about to field day on this. But all he said was that Kathy Griffin should be ashamed of herself. My children, especially my 11-year-old son, Barron, are having a hard time with this. Sick. Totally measured.
But she's the victim here.
But she's the victim. Get out of here, Kathy Griffin.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand.
Did you see what Jim Carrey said?
No. Oh, didn't he stand up for her?
Yeah, he was like, she didn't go far enough. She should have held up a severed leg too.
Was he joking? I could see Jim Carrey joking about that though.
I don't think he. Well, he was defending people's.
He was
right
defending her.
He was defending her.
I have no doubt
right.
she has a right to do it. She's just incredibly stupid for doing it. The Secret Service should look into her, and she should lose gigs. Have the ability to lose gigs because of this. And it's not hate. It's literally just you're an idiot. You did a dumb thing.
It's
and
called
you
the
have
free market working. You said something stupid. People don't like you anymore, so they're not going to support.
Well, I mean,
you
they'd
in
have to
your
have
career.
liked her to begin with, and I don't think she's necessarily been doing great lately. But this does stink of publicity stunt, because you even saw her acknowledging that this was going to be a big deal when she was filming it, which you can see right here.
My name is Kathy Griffin. I'm shooting with Tyler Shields, who is wildly talented. This is fake blood, just so you know. I won't give away what we're doing, but Tyler and I are not afraid to do images that make noise. Come on.
Right?
Yeah. We have to move to Mexico today, because we're going to get federal prison.
Yeah.
Call your dad, apologize, but let's me and Daryl just go to Mexico today, because we're not surviving this, okay?
Look at this. I think that's like that moment right here, like that's the jail moment.
Yeah, that's literally when it's like that.
So you don't joke about having to move to Mexico because of this picture and then be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe people were outraged. I'm so sorry.
Exactly.
No.
It's insane. It's just it's victimhood at its finest.
But it's like riding a bike, shoving a stick in it, wiping out, and being like, the oppression. It's like, no.
You did this to yourself.
You did this. No one else. You chose to do this.
You chopped your own head off.
It's like, oh, well, if you cut all the trees down, this wouldn't. It's like, no.
Nah. Yeah, no, it's insane.
I hope she's gone for at least a while, dude.
She skyrocketed
I have no respect.
to my least favorite comedian. I mean, there was Trevor Noah up there and Amy Schumer were kind of up there, but now she's taken over.
She's definitely beaten out Amy Schumer for me, and I don't like Amy Schumer as a comedian. I think she's pretty funny in some of her things, but
yeah. But she
that
topped
one
it,
movie.
Man. It's amazing. It's pretty impressive. So yeah.
She's an idiot.
She's insane, and I'm glad that she's getting the backlash she's getting, and I think it's kind of an example of.
It's totally warranted, I think, and it's not.
Absolutely.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, that is going to wrap up our main topics this week, and we, of course, are going to move into what triggered us this week. All right, guys, we are back in the final section of this week's Peanut Gallery podcast. And, of course, this is the What Triggered Us This Week, where we deny all rational and reasonable
Jeez, and
good
logical
thing we're wrapping
thought.
up. And logical thought, and replace it only with emotion. And, Seth, what triggered you this week, man?
So mine is actually a big thumbs up, awesome job to a CNN host, which I didn't think I'd actually be doing much.
Something positive.
Something positive, yes. CNN host by the name of Fareed Zakaria, I believe is how you say his name, did a little monologue about liberal intolerance and closed-mindedness. And I thought it was very good, very, very to the point, and we're going to play a little bit of it right now.
I talked about this issue at Bucknell, and I wanted to share those thoughts here. American universities these days seem committed to every kind of diversity except intellectual diversity. Conservative voices and views, already a besieged minority, are being silenced entirely. The campus thought police have gone after serious conservative thinkers like Heather McDonald and Charles Murray, as well as firebrands like Milo Yiannopoulos and Ann Coulter. Some were disinvited, others booed, interrupted, and intimidated. It's strange that this is happening on college campuses that promise to give their undergraduates a liberal education. The word liberal in this context has nothing to do with today's partisan language, but refers instead to the Latin root, pertaining to liberty. And at the heart of the liberal tradition in the Western world has been freedom of speech. From the beginning, people understood that this meant protecting and listening to speech with which you disagreed. Oliver Wendell Holmes once said that when we protect freedom of thought, we are protecting freedom for the thought that we hate. Freedom of speech and thought is not just for warm, fuzzy ideas that we find comfortable. It's for ideas that we find offensive. There is, as we all know, a kind of anti-intellectualism on the right these days, the denial of facts, of reason, of science. But there is also an anti-intellectualism on the left, an attitude of self-righteousness that says we are so pure, we are so morally superior, we cannot bear to hear an idea with which we disagree. Liberals think they are tolerant, but often they aren't. In 2016, a Pew study found Democrats were more likely to view Republicans as close-minded, but each side scores about the same in terms of close-mindedness and hostility to hearing contrarian views. And large segments on both sides consider the other to be immoral, lazy, dishonest, and unintelligent. This is not just about tolerance for its own sake. The truth is, no one has a monopoly on right or virtue. Listening to other contradictory views will teach us all something and sharpen our own views. One of the greatest dangers in life, whether it be in business or government, is to get trapped in a bubble of groupthink and never ask, what if I'm wrong? What is the best argument on the other side? As I said at Bucknell, there is also a broader benefit to society. Technology, capitalism, and globalization are strong forces pulling us apart as a society. By talking to each other seriously and respectfully about agreements and disagreements, we can come together in a common conversation, recognizing that while we seem so far apart, we do actually have a common destiny.
So yeah, I think it's great that we're seeing people on the left, because it's one thing for someone from the opposite side to be pointing out your faults, but it's another thing when someone that's supposed to be on your side politically being like, we need to actually address some of these things, because then I think it's more real to them. But I thought he made some very good points when he was saying, when he said, and I quote, freedom of speech and thought is not for the warm, fuzzy ideas that we find comfortable. It's for ideas that we find offensive. And this is a big thing we've talked about, is that protecting freedom of speech is not about protecting the speech that you agree with. I mean, it is, but it's more important to protect the speech you disagree with, you know?
Absolutely.
And I think it's lost on a lot of people on the left, not liberal progressives nowadays, where they're so quick to shut down people that do not agree with them, for instance, on college campuses. And he also talked about how there seems to be an aura of anti-intellectualism on the right. Yeah. On the right these days, but he also talks, there's a denial of facts and reasoning. And it's like, I think that it's good to have this conversation. And it's good to realize that what we're accusing the right of always having, that it's actually some of it's also on our side, and that we need to address these things because we cannot afford for it to get out of control. And then he ended it very well when he said, liberals think they're tolerant, but they're often not. And I think it's very true, because we see these examples of them becoming the exact things that they're saying everybody else is. Yeah. Specifically fascist.
No, absolutely. It's nice. It's refreshing to hear, this kind of take from anyone, really. I mean, if you're criticizing your own party, the reason we talk about, sometimes we'll criticize, people who would be, more conservative or Republican or whatever you would want to call it. But we do that because we want people. You can't get any better if you don't criticize. If you always let it go, if you're on the left and you don't speak out against any of this intolerance and stuff that's happening, then your party's never going to, get any better. If it's not going to be corrected or evolve. Exactly. So I think it's always refreshing to see that happen. I think it's important for people on both sides to do that, to kind of help keep, not only there's leaders and their politicians in check and stuff like that, but also other people who they may have conversations with and things like that. I think it's important.
So speaking of liberals and being intolerant, just your
Yeah.
Your topic seems to totally nail exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, totally encapsulates that. So, yeah, so mine is a big push to have James Madison's name removed from the school. So, basically, certain minority groups there, black people are saying that it makes them feel, quote, more unsafe to have
More
a
than
statue.
unsafe.
Yeah.
Because there's something beyond being
Exactly,
unsafe.
because James Madison is in their school name, which, you know, by the way, founding father, 4th president of the United States, no big deal.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of, we talked about it a couple episodes ago with removing Confederate monuments and stuff, and how that can really be a slippery slope into, I think we actually mentioned, okay, so what do you do next? You start mentioning founding fathers who owned slaves. Are we taking them completely off? Are we removing statues of them? Are we taking them off the money? What are we going to do? Are we going to like draw a strike through the Constitution when they sign, or the Declaration of Independence?
Well, yeah, because people that signed it had slaves.
Like, yeah, exactly. So what do you do? And it's at a point like, yes, you can acknowledge that they had slaves and they made mistakes, but these are also great revered men who did great things in the world.
No one's perfect.
And yeah, exactly. Nobody's perfect. And we're not, you know, diminishing the issue of slavery. That's a terrible thing. But
and we're also not promoting it by having James Madison's
exactly.
name.
No,
Are you kidding me?
It's history of your country, and especially someone who was so prominent in the establishment of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is just insane.
I cannot understand. Like, this is what we're talking about. When we talk about the statues, that we thought that maybe they should not be up there, maybe they should. Who knows? But like, the idea that the reason they're being taken down now, we don't think that they're necessarily being taken down for the right reasons, if there are right reasons. And I think this is proof that no, they're not. They're just being taken down because people are being offended, and it is, like you said, a slippery slope. And it's this quickly, we're already seeing where it can get pushed to.
Yeah.
And I can't, like, are we gonna tear down like old monuments or something that maybe were built during slave time, or are we gonna, like, where's the end goal, you know?
Everything must be destroyed. No, I think you're totally right. And
to not acknowledge the great he did because he had slaves is just short-sighted.
Yeah, absolutely.
And ignorant.
I totally agree. Well said. And we'll see what happens. I really hope that people don't kind of fall into this trap.
I hope this doesn't get taken down, dude. Are you kidding me?
We'll see, man. Our generation isn't exactly, you know, doing that great so far.
Dude.
But we will see what happens. All right, guys, that's going to bring us to an end of this week's show. Next week, we're going to try and find some more positive stories. Of course, we say that now. Who knows what will actually happen? Probably won't happen, but we're going to try. But thanks, as always, guys, for watching this week's Peanut Gallery podcast. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That helps us out. Be sure and check us out on Instagram. Check us out on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play. Subscribe to us there. And until next week, guys, always remember, stay informed.